I think the ideal strawberry is the shape is very symmetrical, very shiny. You can kind of see that it's very soft on the flesh without even touching it. You can kind of tell that the surface is about to explode because it's full of juices. I'm Hiroki Koga. I'm co-founder and CEO of Oishi Farm. At Oishi Farm, we make the world's finest strawberries in an indoor vertical farm. So our strawberries in our farm are probably the happiest strawberries that you can find on this planet. To me, strawberry is something that I grew up with in Japan. So everything is related to, my memories with Japanese strawberries. Strawberry has always been a treat for me. Growing up as a kid, I would only have strawberries at special occasions. And when I had a strawberry on the dining table, I knew something good happened that day. So I would say most of the strawberries grown in this country are all called the long day cultivars. Long day cultivars that's grown in this country are grown during the summer outdoors in a really hot environment. Whereas the short day cultivars in Japan are grown during the winter, so it's a winter crop. Long day cultivars, they're optimized for quantity, and then also they are much harder and less juicier. And the reason why this specific variety is grown in this country is because the strawberries need to endure the long distance transportation. The ones grown in Japan are called the short day cultivars, which are much softer, much juicier, they're much more tasty, but they're very soft, so they're vulnerable to transportation. Oishi means delicious or tasty in Japanese. These are top of the line called omakase berries, and this is a typical American strawberry, something that we just bought this morning. One of the measurements for the quality of strawberries is Brix. So Brix is essentially the amount of glucose that's included in the strawberry, so it measures the sweetness level of the strawberry. These usually have a Brix of approximately 4 to, in its best situation, maybe like 7 or 8. Our berries range from around 11 to as high as 20. We're gonna do a Brix test. We slice our strawberries, we squeeze the juice out of the strawberry, and then we put it onto this machine called the Brix machine, and it will give us the Brix level of this strawberry. Huh? 10.5. 10.5, okay, that's not good. Let's do it again. That is surprising. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit nervous, huh? Yeah, we don't care about, we measure Brix, but we don't care about Brix, actually. Okay, 12.6. Okay, I'm happy with that. This is one of our R&D facilities here at Oishi. Yeah, this is my own year. This is something that really makes us different from our other vertical farms. We have over 20 different environments to test different conditions to grow our plants, which is really hard to do outside because you can't really control, when the sun comes out or how hot it gets during the day. Whereas in our controlled environment rooms, we can control literally every aspect of the environment. We can even make one day into 12 hours. We can make one day into 48 hours. There are no nurseries in this country that provide these seedlings to us. So we need to start from scratch of growing our own seedlings, Japanese variety seedlings. Yoko, do you wanna show them this? Yeah. So this is it's basically plantlet. Plantlet? Okay. So that's what it's called. You don't have to water them. It just grows on this soil, and then once it gets to a certain size, you need to take it out of this environment and then transplant it into the farm environment so that they can thrive in the normal farm. Before we go into the farm, we require everyone to go through multiple levels of desanitization. In this whole facility, we have 5 different levels of sanitation levels. As you go up, the rules get more strict. So here, everyone needs to wash their hands first. It's a little bit annoying, especially like if you go out just to grab something, you have to go through this process every time, but it's just it's just very critical that we do this every time. And one of the biggest risks for our business is if our farm gets contaminated with some kind of disease from the outside, it could wipe out our entire production. So we're very careful about disease management. This is my farm where. So I just make sure that everything is covered from my toe all the way to my head. Beyond this line, you're only allowed to use these shoes. And this is what's called the air shower. So even though I'm already covered from toe to head already, just to make sure, everyone needs to go through this air shower and basically blow off everything that is on their body. So this room is specifically aimed to replicate the environment of the Japanese Alps during the spring. The night temperature is relatively low, just above freezing. But then as the day starts, the lights turn on and the temperature starts going up. And even during the middle of the day, your temperature is pretty moderate. They probably believe that they're still in Japan. And that's why we can grow these Japanese strawberries that was never grown outside of Japan before. It's all about how long the berries can stay on the seedling and get that end product of photosynthesis, which is really the sweetness. And when you think about these berries taking about 30 to 40 days to fully ripe, if you harvest it a couple days early, that means you're losing 10% of that photosynthesis and the sweetness that goes into it. And especially towards the end is where all of the sweetness goes in. So harvesting it a couple days could end up in even something like 20%, 30% lower bricks.
This one's like 90% ripe. The top part is still white, and fully ripe one is red all the way on the top.
One thing we learned was when we were a really trained harvester was harvesting, the average bricks was slightly higher than a newly trained farmer. This is something that we experienced in the very beginning. So as a result, we made this training program for all of our farmers so that they know exactly when to pick the berries, not a day early or not a day later. One thing you'll notice that's very different from traditional harvesting is the amount of detail that goes into picking each berry. So you're not just like grabbing one and then pulling it off. We will cut them one by one because our berries are so soft and they need to be handled very delicately. And you might have noticed that he's entering data every single time he harvests something. He is weighing the strawberry, and he's also visually checking if there aren't any bruises.
This is a damaged berries.
So anything that has like slight bruises or slight deformation, these we will harvest and then we will sell to restaurants who would use our strawberries in other forms, like in purees or sauces or in pastries, because essentially the taste doesn't change.
このいちごという食材が日本はもう本当食べるだけですごく美味しくて、ただフランスのいちごとかスペインのいちごというのはすごい香りが良くて、もう歩いてるだけでいちごって言って、日本のその香りとまた違うくて、ただこの美味しいストロベリーに関してはそのいいとこの部分を2つ両方使っていて、香りもいいし、その食欲とか季節を思い出させてくれる香りと、あと食べた時シュパッとなった時のフレッシュ感とかが料理にもすごい合うと思って、僕はすごい気に入っているいちごの一つです。
それでいちごのジュースを作っていきます。でこのいちごが少し甘めなので柚子の香りと酸味で調整します。あとは火にかけます。で沸いたら砂糖といちごから水分が出てくるんで、その水分だけでいちごを20分ほど煮ます。Good balance, sweet and sour.
This have the good flavor and good sour and sweet, so very good.
このように綺麗な色に 仕上がります。
As long as they're using in that context, it's totally the same quality strawberry. So we make sure that we sell everything that we harvest and we're not throwing away anything. We're the first vertical farm in the world that has succeeded in controlling bees in a completely closed artificial environment. We cracked the code to doing it, and here at our farm, bees fly freely, they conduct pollination, just like how they would do in a natural environment. I can't talk to the specifics of how we do it. That's our secret. It's quite awesome, right? I think it's one of the most biggest wow moments. I didn't shed a tear, but we were following the bee with our camera, just hoping, please go land on a flower. Don't go land on a random wall. And then we follow the bee, and then it finally lands on the flower. It starts moving around, and then Robin gets brought to the center of the flower, and yeah, hallelujah. We don't need to wear the same type of gears that we wear in the house, but we need to make sure we wear a hat so that our hair doesn't end up in our final product. It's one of our main packaging rooms here. You've probably noticed it's very cold in here. The reason why this room needs to be cold is because strawberries, they last much longer, and you can keep the flavor when you bring it down to a very cold temperature right after harvest. So it's very important that we harvest them and we package them and we put it in the fridge as soon as possible. Right behind this wall is our farm, and we have this pass-through window that connects the farm and the packaging room directly. So there's no contamination whatsoever with these strawberries. The most important thing that happens here is quality control, because that's what Oishi is really all about. But what she's doing right now here is visually inspecting every berry. The color is right, the size is right, there is no major bruises. And then most importantly, she is using something called the Brix gun, which measures the sweetness of the strawberries. Really only a few companies that produce these kind of equipment, and they're all in Japan, because only Japanese people go that far to try to check the quality of the product. So I had never imagined that I would be a farmer until probably 4 or 5 years ago. But the moment I got out of Japan and came to the US, I started to quickly realize that there's a huge difference in the quality of not just produce, but food in general. And that's when I first started thinking, this is actually an interesting area, and maybe something that as a Japanese, I can contribute to share something that people didn't know, something that people didn't know that even existed, so that more people can enjoy what they're eating every day. My parents have been really supportive, but probably my mom would have thought, he went to a good school in Japan, he did consulting for 6 years, he paid $200,000 to go to an MBA in the US, and he has no savings, and then why is he making strawberries in the US? It was probably, for her first gut answer. But I had a very clear vision. I could pull this off if I worked really hard. With the members that I gathered in this team, we can actually do something that is truly revolutionary. We have a very unique packaging, a whole housing or a bed for each individual berry. And as you can see, this one has 11 holes in the tray. This one only has 8 holes. And smaller ones go into this one, larger one goes into this one. If you fit a large one in this, they'll get bruised. If you put a small one in this, they'll jump around during transportation, so they'll also get bruised. So these are specifically, designed for certain sizes of strawberries. So one thing we definitely wanted to avoid was we didn't want to sell our strawberries at the same price of existing categories and start in a local supermarket where no one might realize that it's even there. And in order to maintain a high standard and also a high brand, we wanted to have something that's exceptional, but something that is also reasonably priced for what it is. And we tried different prices and we figured out that $50 is what our customers are willing to pay us at this point, and it contains 8 to 11 strawberries. So I know they're not cheap. After lunch is when all of our delivery happens. Some berries go all the way from seedling to the mouth of our consumers within as short as 2 hours to somewhere around like 5-6 hours, depending on where you live. Especially when we had to travel with these berries for a couple hours to go out to the suburb to give it to chefs and celebrities. We actually made a bag just for carrying these strawberries. So we made this about 2 years ago, and it has a pocket for our trays to go in, and then we put this in a bag, we put insulations, and yeah, it was crazy.
These are going out to some of our delivery customers this afternoon, and I think we're running some berries over to Terri.
Beautiful.
You guys just here in the middle.
Awesome.
Hits you immediately as soon as you pop the lid off.
As soon as you pop the lid, that was what sold us on them the first time we got these strawberries.
Yeah.
It's like November too. Someone came in, walked in with these strawberries, and just the second we opened them, and it was the second you hear strawberries in November, you're like, you can't get nice strawberries in November. And then we're so skeptical on the second we smelled it and ate one, just done. So, and sold on them ever since. Yeah, these look great for what we're gonna do with them today. We're gonna make our strawberry and skyr dessert today. Basically a sorbet with yogurt inside, really light, refreshing. We're just going to do some sugar and glucose syrup, some water, a little bit of lemon juice, and bloomed gelatin. So we turn off the heat, we're gonna add in the yogurt, just mix that together, and then we cool it down. We love fruit chips here, but strawberry ones are definitely really nice to have. All we do is cut up the fresh strawberries. We just do a quick dip in simple syrup and lay them out on the tray so they get dehydrated overnight. So all we're gonna do is put it straight in the piping bag. So now we've got our ice cream. And then they go into our very, very cold freezer to set for a couple hours until they're hard enough to pop out. So once they're frozen and set, we just pop them out. They're ready to go. And I need flour. We just do a mix of the fresh strawberries and strawberry chips on top. Just gonna put a little bit of the rhubarb compote we have on the bottom. Do some of our vanilla oil, just sunflower oil steeped with a little bit of vanilla. Take one of our ice cream, set right on top. Here's the fun part. We just kind of fan out and alternate between fresh strawberries and strawberry chips, and some herbs from our Farm One garden, and then the sauce is a little bit of strawberry sauce with vanilla oil. You know, sometimes with fresh strawberries, you'll get great ones, but in terms of consistency, it's hard for us to continuously get enough of the good ones that we need, and to have them always be just really great. So these, it's so reliable and so consistent that we can get it in the wintertime. They're always delicious. They taste like that perfect strawberry. So
today is our historical first harvest.
I think when you look at our farmers, they all have a very strong passion to be able to want to deliver the absolute best product to their customers.
Oh, be careful. What is it? I'm gonna round up, say 20.
What is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like they're doing it because they're getting paid to do it, but they apply to this company because they really love our product and they really believe in what we're doing, and they really think that if omakase berry gets more widely consumed in this country, it could actually make people happy. And I think that all of these little attention to detail is what makes a huge difference in terms of the end product. I think that's the recipe for an amazing strawberry. You know, people eat it because it's healthy too, but whereas in Japan, we cherish and enjoy high quality fruits just purely because it's something that you can enjoy and you can have like a wow moment. I really wanted to do something similar here. The current agriculture industry is no longer sustainable. The weather, the climate conditions is unstable, especially when it comes to strawberries. The land that they use is the prime coastal land on the West Coast near LA. The land prices are skyrocketing, and at the same time, it's a really harsh working environment for the workers at the farm, because in the US, you're growing strawberries on the ground, so people need to be constantly bending to pick berries, and we need to change how that's done. And I think, you know, vertical farm technology can achieve that. Sure, it's still expensive, but it removes all of these problems that's currently causing the agriculture industry, and it's really good for our workers. There are multiple crops that's on my mind, but they might be either tomatoes or grapes or melons or peaches or pears. Yes, I want to change the world for the better. A trivial information, but strawberries contain as much vitamin C as lemons. Did you know that? So, you know, it's as healthy as a lemon. And you can't eat, you know, 100 lemons at a time, but you can eat 100 oishi berries.